Hey everyone, welcome back to Crown Corner. I'm your host Crown, and today we've got some truly wild stories to share with you. From the unbelievable antics in bars to the crafty tricks played in the world of academia, each tale today is a gem in its own right. So grab a snack, settle in, and let's dive into these stories that are sure to leave you shaking your head in disbelief, laughing, or maybe even both. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. Let's get started. I've been working in bars since I turned 18. You learn a lot in this job, but the most important rule is simple. Don't leave your drinks unattended. If they are left alone, they get collected. It's a standard practice. Helps with safety and keeping the place tidy. Anyway, there was this one night that really stuck with me. It was closing time, last orders had been called, and the bouncers were doing their rounds, urging people to finish up and head out. The bar was shut down, lights dimming, the usual end-of-night routine. Our glass collector was making his rounds, efficiently clearing up the remaining glasses. He approached the table where there was a glass with just a dribble of drink left. Politely, he asked the group there if they were done with it. They said yes, so he did his job and put the glass in the wash. I was sweeping the floor trying to get everything clean for the next day when the glass collector came over. He looked a bit perplexed. "There is a woman at the end of the bar," he said. "She's asking about her drink and demanding it be replaced. Turns out the glass was the last drop of drink was hers, and now it was gone." The clock had struck 2 a.m. and the bar was officially closed. We'd done our restock and it was time for everyone to leave. The woman had left her drink unattended, and as per our rule, it was collected. This woman, however, was having none of it. She stormed behind the bar right to where I was standing and started demanding I pour her another drink. She claimed she had paid for it and wasn't finished. I tried explaining calmly there was barely anything left in her glass, and besides, it's important not to leave drinks unattended for safety reasons. "I'd let you pay for another if we were still open," I told her, "but we're closed. Tills are done for the night and I can't help you, and you need to leave the bar area. It's against our licensing." She was clearly drunk and became irate, spouting the classic "customer is always right" rhetoric. I explained again, as calmly as I could, "There are rules I have to follow. You need to leave or the bouncers will have to remove you." She didn't take that well. Her face twisted in anger and she started shouting profanities, still demanding a free drink. At this point I was done. I signaled the bouncer over to escort her out. I was exhausted, having worked a 12-hour shift, and just wanted to go home. As the bouncer approached, she turned back to me and lunged with all her force. I'm not a big person, but I've taken self-defense classes. I managed to hold her in place on the floor while the bouncers helped to get her out of the bar. She was still swinging her arms wildly, managing to scratch my face with her nails. Instantly, she was barred from the establishment for attacking a staff member. We reported her to the police, and since it was all caught on the security cameras, she was charged with assault. The whole situation baffled me. How could someone be so entitled over a mere drop of a drink? It's been a while since that happened, but it still gives me a bit of anxiety. I always make sure the latch door is locked when we're closing up now. So here is the moral of the story, which should really be a given. When you're out drinking, please don't leave your drinks unattended. We even have posters all over the walls and behind the bar, clearly stating that rule. But some people, it seems, just don't get it. My dad just shared a story about my late Uncle Dale, his lifelong friend and fellow engineer. So in his memory and in spirit of the upcoming holidays, I present for you the tale of nepotism, engineering students, and Idina Menzel. Uncle Dale was a senior engineer at a small firm in the Midwestern USA and engineering instructor at the local community college. He was also unofficially in charge of the office parties. To help offset the costs, he had a small tin box on a table outside of his office with a slot in it so anyone could donate money to the party fund. Everyone knew about it and were happy to donate. A month or so before the company's big Christmas party, Uncle Dale decided to check the box. Lo and behold, it was empty. Uncle Dale knew something was wrong because he had seen several colleagues putting money in the box. This could only mean one thing. Someone was stealing from the party fund. At this moment, Brad, the owner's nephew and a fellow engineer, came around the corner. And something about the way Brad was looking at him made Uncle Dale suspicious. Brad didn't have a good reputation around the office to say the least. He had a reputation of being pushy, obnoxious, rude, and just plain entitled. Unfortunately, he was not only the owner's beloved nephew, but knew how to skirt the rules so he wouldn't get fired. Uncle Dale decided to set a trap to catch the thief. Using his engineering skills, he set up a hidden rig using a hidden doorbell camera right by the box. He then had a colleague loudly brag about how he contributed $100 to the party fund. Then he waited. He got a notification that the camera was recording and watched Brad open the empty box, scowl in disgust, and throw the box against the wall. Now, you'd think this would end with Uncle Dale presenting the video evidence to his boss to get Brad fired, but oh no. As I mentioned in a previous post, if there is one thing engineers love, it's solving problems. And if it's engineering students, they will make it an experience to remember. Uncle Dale then went to his engineering students. He offered them extra credit to come up with a rigged box that would make noise when opened. The more obnoxious the sound, the higher the bonus. 1 week later, they delivered their project and demonstrated how it worked. Pleased with the result, Uncle Dale awarded them the extra credit as promised. The next day, he set up the rigged box and proclaimed, "Well, isn't this nice?" Someone donated $50 to the party fund. Then he went to his office and waited. The engineering students had rigged the box with one of those inserts from cards that play music when you open them. By popular vote, they had picked "Let It Go" from the Disney movie Frozen, right around the time the song was beginning to become unpopular. They also managed to ensure that once opened, the box couldn't close until you pressed the hidden side button, releasing the hinge. So the song would continue to play. For extra funsies, they made sure to angle the insert for maximum volume and secured it down with industrial strength glue. Sure enough, everyone in the office heard Idina Menzel belting the hated song and Brad's frustrated grunts while trying to close the box. One of those attracted by the sound was Brad's uncle. Finally, Brad chucked the box at the wall, managing to put a good-sized dent in it. The uncle then summoned Brad to his office. 15 minutes later, Brad left with a cardboard box and cleared out his desk, along with a note in his file: "Do not rehire. Do not recommend." That Christmas, Uncle Dale had a little video prepared to show at the party. The doorbell camera had caught Brad's attempt to steal from the box, all to the tune of "Let It Go." My sister has 2 now adult kids. Her son is 21 and her daughter is 18, and both of them told her in the last month or so that they plan to legally change their names. My nephew is George and my niece is Catherine. The kids always had nicknames as kids and asked people not to use their whole names, but it was my niece who was the most vocal about the hatred she had for her name. She said Catherine made her think of the old lady who lived down the street from her, and she felt like it was a really old lady name, or a name someone who wanted to appear so mature would have. She wanted a name that sounded younger, and in middle school, she started to go by the name Ember, after a character she adored in a book. Amber has stuck and she plans to make that her legal name. George was never as outspoken, but in the last few years, mostly since he moved out of his parents' house, he has been Ryder to his friends. Now he has decided he wants to make Ryder his legal name. My sister was upset with one wanting to change, but with both, she's got a mix of sadness and anger about it. She and my niece have argued a lot. My sister told her wanting to sound young is a dumb reason to change her name. She told her the name Catherine has a lot of history surrounding it and sounds far more adult than she is now. She told her she just wants a trendy modern name and can't see the benefit to having a real name. She hasn't been as harsh with my nephew, but she goes more for the guilt trips with him more so. And she has tried with my niece too, just more with my nephew. It got to the point that I heard from both my niece and nephew that their mom is driving them crazy and my nephew is considering changing his middle name like his sister plans to change hers, since their mom is being so extreme about this. My niece said she doesn't want either name her mom gave her and would rather have just a first name than carry around names she doesn't like. So I decided to talk to my sister and she told me she doesn't want to hear what I have to say. She told me they are her kids and she has every right to try to convince them to do the right thing. I told her she should still lay off the guilt trips or she might find herself hearing less from the kids than she does now. And they might be less inclined to tell her stuff in the future, which she also wouldn't like. She told me to leave after telling me that I had crossed a line. Am I the jerk? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, you're not the jerk. But like another comment, you stated your opinions and that's the end. She will continue to guilt her kids and they will change their names. You tried being reasonable, but honestly there is no use with people like that. My mother is the same way. No one, not even her, calls me by my legal first name. And I plan on changing it. I loathe my first name, it's so stupid, and not one person can pronounce it right without me correcting them. My mom always gives me the most pathetic puppy dog look and tries to tell me that it was my maternal great-grandmother's name. No, it wasn't, Mom. Not even your mom will allow that crap line. She's tried to convince me to keep it in the past, but I threatened to cut her off. She finally got the hint and resorts to the face and white lie every time now. Which I'm fine with because, well, she won't change my mind. Another commenter adds, not the jerk, but I understand your sister's feelings. I gave my youngest a traditional name that I loved from both literature and history. She hated it. And after she got her first job and saved up her money, she asked us to sign the papers so she could change it. I felt bad on 2 counts because I really did love the name and I felt bad for giving her a name she hated. I can also relate to the other side. I hate, loathe, and despise my first name. Not even my own family can pronounce it or spell it correctly, and to make matters worse, it was the name of a very popular song back in the day that people used to sing at me whenever I introduced myself. Add to that the fact that my parents didn't really name me, they took the suggestion of family friends. So yeah, I get it and feel for both the parents and the kids, but if she really loves her kids, she needs to accept what makes them happy. The third commenter goes with, not the jerk because you're correct that she's only alienating them further. That said, I don't really feel like I understand the entire picture here. Catherine and George are such normal names. I wonder if this is in part to a rejection of their mother rather than just the names themselves. Your niece in particular sounds like she's been obsessing in an almost unhealthy way over her name for years when there is really nothing wrong with it. I can't help but feel like she'll eventually grow up and realize Amber doesn't make her feel any more special than Catherine did. I can understand people who change their names when they have been given a truly outdated name or they are John Jr. 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 and they want their own name. And I can understand changing your name if it's weird, like all these kids being named Kimberly or whatever we'll someday want to do. But it feels to me like the situation you've described, your niece has some kind of underlying insecurity, fueling her deep hatred for the name her parents chose for her. And worst of all, she's more or less convinced that her brother's name isn't worth a cent either. Your sister does need to back off or she will make it worse. But honestly, her kids sound like they are being awfully immature. Once upon a time in the quaint town of Academia, a new middle school assistant principal was placed at our school. One day, trying to impress the school principal, our assistant, Mr. Sternsworth, as we will call him, decided to crack down on the teacher's lesson planning process. Mr. Sternsworth, a stern man who was a penchant for punctuality, issued a decree that all the teachers must submit their lesson plans detailed on the form he provided. That took way longer due to formatting and other demands, and wanted them promptly every Monday at 8 a.m. for the upcoming week. The teachers grumbled and complained that this takes a lot of time. We could be prepping for the lesson, but we had little choice but to comply with the Sternsworth's wishes. I, however, saw an opportunity for a little mischief. Determined to make a point, I not only submitted the lesson plans diligently every Monday at the specified time, but took it a step further. Along with each lesson plan, I attached a friendly email politely requesting feedback on the plans and any suggestions for improvement. Dear Mr. Sternsworth, I hope this email finds you well. Attached are my lesson plans for the upcoming week. I would greatly appreciate any feedback or suggestions you might have. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, OP. At first, Mr. Sternsworth was pleased to see such diligence from me. However, as the weeks went by, the inbox of the assistant principal began to overflow with my meticulously detailed lesson plans and polite follow-up emails. It seemed that every lesson plan submission was accompanied by a prompt for feedback. At first, he tried to keep up. He skimmed through a few lesson plans, offering generic feedback like "looks good" or "keep it up." But I was persistent and I pushed for more feedback. The flood of emails requesting feedback became overwhelming, and Mr. Sternsworth found himself spending more time responding to me than actually performing his administrative duties. Frustrated and desperate to put an end to the constant barrage of emails, he called me out into his office. "OP, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I simply don't have the time to provide detailed feedback on every lesson plan. Can't you just submit them without all the extra emails?" Smirking, I replied, "Sorry sir, I'm just a guy who wants to get better. I'm trying to make lesson plans that are really engaging. I really need the feedback. I'd hate to get a doc on my end of the year evaluation for being anything but the best." After a heavy sigh, Mr. Sternsworth said, "OP, if you stop emailing me about them, I won't make you turn any more in. It's obvious you're a good teacher, and I need to focus on other things." That was 12 years ago, and I haven't turned in a lesson plan since. It's time to return to the land of entitled Karens and Brads at a magical theme park complex in the heart of Central Florida, where I worked as a custodian and photographer for several years. One of our more popular characters is a pirate with a compass that never points north and likes to ask, "Why is the rum always gone?" Mr. Pirate likes to roam around with a couple of character attendants for safety reasons, but every once in a while he will stop to troll guests. Given how popular he is, he draws a crowd and will quickly run off when guests start to gather. We had a major hurricane due to arrive in a couple of days, so it's unusually quiet. Most guests leave when word gets out that the hurricane is coming. I was Rover. Basically, I can photograph wherever I want in the area when Mr. Pirate, who I was good friends with, stops by and tries to bargain for my magic portrait box, aka my camera. While we're joking around, he notices a VIP family exploring the area. For the uninitiated, one of our services is a private tour of the park where you get to ride as many rides as you want, meet as many characters as you want, and learn fun things about the park, courtesy of a guide who is usually, but not always, a guest relations host. It's also one of our more expensive services, so it's unfortunately an entitled people magnet. Mr. Pirate says, "I think I should ask them what they think your magic portrait box is worth." I agree, wish him a successful treasure hunt, and he heads over. As I don't want to draw any more attention to Mr. Pirate, which will certainly get him stuck and cause headaches for everyone, I make sure that I'm hidden in a corner, and that I have a front row seat. This VIP family was a good size with a few kids, parents, and our Karen, who looks like a grandma. Now the kids and most of the parents are super excited at this impromptu meeting and are grinning like it's Christmas morning. Karen, on the other hand, decides to spoil everyone's fun, demanding that their VIP host find the photographer as soon as possible and starts lining everyone up for pictures. Mr. Pirate, realizing his attempt at a magic moment has gotten him in a real pickle, tries to defuse the situation, asking what she's doing by lining people up in such a strange fashion. Karen, who's apparently in a grumpy mood, starts to argue with him. Eventually, she uses the infamous line, "Don't you know who I am?" Mr. Pirate then looks completely bewildered and stares at her like she suddenly sprouted a second head. "What do you mean?" he asked. It's now Karen's turn to look bewildered. It's the first time in a long while I had seen someone look completely flabbergasted. Mr. Pirate then leans closer and says, "You mean you don't know who you are?" The rest of the family bursts out laughing, and I can see the VIP host/character attendants covering their mouths. "I should go find you then. Now where's my compass?" Mr. Pirate says and pulls off in the opposite direction. By the time Karen is able to pick her jaw off the ground, Mr. Pirate and his attendants are long gone. Family still had a great time though, and were still laughing at Karen as they were leaving. From then on, whenever I'd run into Mr. Pirate, I'd ask, "Were you able to find you?" which always got a laugh out of him. And that's a wrap for today's episode on K-Korner. I hope you enjoyed these incredible stories as much as I did. It's amazing what you can encounter in this world, from the bizarre to the heartwarming. If you've got stories of your own that you think our community would love to hear, be sure to drop them in the comments below. Remember, life's too short not to share the good, the bad, and the absolutely crazy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Until next time, this is Crown, signing off.